Let me start that over again. I'm sorry, guys. Welcome to Here's the Deal, live on site here at the 109 Steakhouse, live in Lignite, North Dakota, where we are having a meet and greet with the Republican endorsed candidates for District 2 in the state legislature. And I have one of those candidates with me right now, Mr. Mark Enget. He is running for the state Senate. How are you, Mark?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to be here, Shilo.
Good. Well, I appreciate you doing this interview with me, this impromptu interview. I was just wondering, do you just want to start by introducing yourself, letting people know who you are, what you're about?
Absolutely. So, as Shilo said, my name is Mark Enget. I'm running for a Senate seat in District 2. And so I'm from Powers Lake. I lived here in Burke County growing up and went to school at Minot State and ended up getting hired out of Minot State by an oil service company. So I worked with them for 35 years. Well, 31 actually. I moved the last 4 years. But the name of the company was Schlumberger, and what we did was oil services. So we did reservoir production testing, we did a lot of engineering work, well construction, that sort of thing. And Schlumberger was a company that taught me a lot of very good things about business. And one of the things they believed in very strongly was keeping a person fresh. So in order to do that, what they would do is they would move you every 2 years. And the idea behind moving every 2 years, you didn't get stuck in a rut. You always had a new challenge. And you were always learning new ways of doing things from other people and bringing your learnings to other locations. And so this really taught me the value of a diverse approach to many different things. I started out working in Texas and being hired out of North Dakota. I really expected to start in North Dakota, but started out in Texas, and I did 3 years there. And then my father fell ill, so I came home to North Dakota for a year, still working with Schlumberger, but also helping with the farm work. So I was born and raised on a farm, small farm, which was quite common back then. You know, everybody had 4 or 5 quarters, and there were a lot of kids in school because the farms were small. And I worked there for a year, and then a transfer of technology came up with my company, and they asked me to go to China. And at the very same time, I'd met my wife, just proposed to her, and I proposed to her 2 weeks before, and then they transferred me to China. So I took off for China. She said yes. I took off for China. And I'd work there for 3 months at a time. And then she was preparing the wedding. So I came home once for a month, and I went back in for another 3 months. For 6 out of 7 months, we never saw each other at all. And I was over there teaching the Chinese how to use our equipment and how to operate it and what could be gained from it. So anyway, I did that. I came back, and she asked me, "Are you sure you still want to do this?" And I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely." But, you know, after being gone for 6 months, I'm like, man, I haven't seen, neither of us have seen one another. But we ended up getting married, and this month we'll be married 39 years. So it's been a very good story. She stuck with me. I'll just finish that story. We went from China to Pakistan, and Pakistan on to Venezuela. And from Venezuela, we were there 3 years, off to Mexico for a couple, then over to Singapore, down to the Philippines, back to Venezuela. And we just moved and moved. We moved about 15 times in the 30 years I was with Schlumberger. And so, again, the idea behind that was keeping it fresh, new learning experiences. And I think that's something that transfers very well into the political scene, because I think all too often those who are serving in government get very comfortable in what they're doing because they've stayed there for a long time. They've kind of become part of the establishment, and they don't have the ability to think of new ways, innovative mindsets, looking for solutions rather than saying, well, I'm afraid that's not going to work. We've never done that before, and therefore not willing to try it. So I think in a major way, that's what I bring to the race, is that I'm not a lifelong politician. I haven't been involved in politics for a long time, but what I do bring is a very keen business acumen and understanding of how business works. And I believe that is very fitting for a position in government as well, because my job in Schlumberger was always to provide value to my clients. And we were always looking for how do we add value? What can we do to add value to what we're doing for our clients? And that's what we should be doing in government as well. We as legislators are working for you. It's not so much what our ideas are that are important. What's important is what all our constituents, the people in our district think, and how we can serve them better, and how we can communicate better with them and better understand what their concerns are. Doing a lot of talking here, so I'll turn it back over to you.
No, that's great. This is what this is about. So, with all that being said, with all the world travel and everything that you've done, why jump into politics now at this point in your life? I mean, what was the aha moment of maybe I need to get involved?
So another great question. There was a lot of reluctance, honestly, and with complete sincerity, what I will say is I felt a calling to get into politics. I kept looking at what was going on in the world, what was happening at the national level, what was happening at the global level, and having been in many of these countries and seeing what's happening. And I would talk to my wife about it, and she would tell me to quit whining. And I'd talk to my pastor about it, and he'd say, quit whining, do something about it. And everybody kept saying, okay, you're right. There's a lot of problems out there, but whining doesn't do any good. And so my pastor was up there in the pulpit one Sunday, and he was talking to the congregation. He said, get involved, get out, go on your local school board, go on your county commission, do what you can, look for ways that you can serve and that you can make an impact. And that really spoke to me. And so I still wasn't convinced that this is the right thing for me, because like I said, I never had any aspiration nor inclination to go into politics.
Right.
But now I was feeling called and to do so. So my wife and I prayed about it for 3 months until December. And I said, December 31st, I was asking God to slam the doors, and honestly hoping God would slam the door, but never happened. And so with no slam door, January 1st, I talked to the district chair here in District 2 and said I'm considering running, and they encouraged me to do so. And that's kind of the short and the long of it.
Gotcha.
How it happened.
So with your history in the energy industry, and obviously you can point your finger to anything, and we have a lot of problems in the state, whether it be our school systems. Obviously, that position with DPI is just look at anything that you want to. What is going to be what are your priorities? What are you going to work on first or get involved with? Maybe that's a better term to use, because a lot of times you ask someone that and it's like they're the only person that can work on something, right? We all know that that's not the case. So what are your interests? Where are you going to be at?
Okay, so if we're talking about the school system and what's been going on with critical race theory and diversity, equity, and inclusivity, and all these sort of things, these are social programs that have been brought into our educational system, and they're very much pushed by the federal government. I hate to say it, but I really can't see it anyway. Many times our state government has to stand up and stand in the way of federal government, because they're pushing things into our communities, into our schools, that aren't good for our children. And so one of these agenda points, I would say, has been the transgender movement. To be very accepting of it, to make sure everybody's included, to introduce this to kids. And now we find that we are having this introduced to kids who are 5 years old. There's no need for them to know about this thing. Sexuality and human sexuality, I should say, is something that there may be a time for it in the school system, but I really believe that belongs with the family. It belongs with the parents. It belongs with the parents in the churches, I should say, and family. It isn't really something that needs to be done in the school. And maybe there is a need for it, but certainly it should be gauged towards a certain age where the child is much more mature and understanding of what's going on. So I believe very much in protecting the innocence of the child and ensuring that they're not indoctrinated with things that are actually harmful to them. And so I would say, number one, that the family has to be very much involved in the school system and what's going on, understanding what's being taught to their children and being allowed to participate, come to school board meetings. There's been a lot of pushback in a lot of different parts of the nation where they don't let parents into the school board meetings anymore. And there's been a lot of upset parents not understanding why they're not allowed to participate and know what's going on with their child's education. So I would put a very big push onto that as well. And I think the other thing that we have to look at very closely is more of a classical education. Ever since the Department of Education has come into existence, our mathematic and reading scores have been dropping, and they continue to drop year after year. And right now, reading proficiencies for the average student in the United States has fallen down to an 8th grade reading level by the time they graduate. So our kids are experiencing lower and lower proficiencies in everything that they do. And that affects not only our state, but our nation and, our productivity and our ability to defend the free society that we have. So you could go into a lot of different angles with that, but
there is a lot of rabbit holes there.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your time. Another question that I might ask is, where are you at with property rights in this carbon capture deal? Obviously, that's a big deal throughout the state. And so where are you as far as the carbon capture and how it affects our property rights as well?
Okay. So I'll start out with the carbon capture angle of it. So this is something, it's the sequestration of carbon and carbon dioxide, and you actually take that and you pump it into a formation and you hide it away forever. At least that's the agenda that's on the table today. And so as you develop ethanol or create ethanol, it spews off a lot of carbon dioxide. And so these corn plants have all this carbon dioxide, and they're being pushed by the federal government again to sequester it. So they want to build a pipeline coming all the way from Nebraska up into North Dakota. And ultimately, you have a final destination, starting in Nebraska, and I don't know exactly where. Final destination is just a little bit north and west of Bismarck. And so in order to get this carbon dioxide there, they need to build a pipeline. And the pipeline traverses about 4 states before it actually gets here. And we're being used as a disposal site.
Yeah.
And you could make a good case for carbon dioxide if you're bringing it to the western part of the state, where you're using it for secondary or tertiary recovery in the oil patch. You can pump carbon dioxide down into the formations and flood it across from one wellbore to another, and it carries oil with it. So if you're doing there, at least you would have an end product. But as it is today, just pumping it away into the formation, and there's no final use at all. We're essentially a big garbage pit for carbon dioxide for the places that are creating it. Now, when we get down to the mechanics of the issue, you have to understand that they're coming across farmers' land. They're coming across 4 states. There's a lot of individual property there. And they're putting eminent domain into place. And eminent domain was created for the sake of being able to put in sewer and water and electric and all those sort of things as cities expand. So there was a need for it there, but it was never meant as a for-profit kind of venture. And what's happening now with eminent domain, state government is coming in and they're exercising eminent domain for the sake of profit. It's not for the sake of public good, it's for the sake of profit. And therefore, it's totally wrong, because you have people who are being forced to give up their land for this carbon dioxide, for carbon sequestration, and they're being given no choice. And again, being for a for-profit venture, it's totally illegal in every way. And you have many people who have land that's coming very close to Bismarck, and it's land which is prime for development. And these people are being told, too bad, we are going to run the pipeline right through here. We're doing it through eminent domain. And they're losing the possibility of future development. The very value of that land is being diminished because they're not being allowed to develop it as a commercial venture. So there's a lot of different angles that you can look at there, but government is overstepping, they're overreaching, and they're forcing their will upon the people. And that's not the way we do things in a free society. They have to provide value. Farmers have legitimate concerns. First of all, the safety of having a high pressure pipeline running across their lands. Carbon dioxide, if there is a leak or anything like that, it makes a cloud. It's heavier than air, so it sinks and it'll suffocate you.
Yep.
So if you're living in an area, there are dangers to be known. And again, if it's the farmer's land, it's a farmer's land, and government needs to step back and realize it and find another path if they need to, or simply drop it. Carbon dioxide is something that our plants thrive on. That's what plants need. And therefore, anytime you have carbon dioxide anywhere, it's a very good thing for the plant life and generally speaking, for the atmosphere itself. So I don't quite understand it.
Yeah, there again, that's another issue where you can go down a lot of rabbit holes because now they're talking like insurance companies not covering the farmer's land, different things like that. So there's all kinds of rabbit holes that we can go down as far as that too. So I do believe that it's important that the legislature stand up for the property rights of these farmers and stuff. So, well, we've got people starting to come in. I really appreciate your time. Is there any last message you'd like to give our viewers?
Well, there's several, but I'll keep it simple. My point of view is that I'm definitely new into the game, but I bring a very specific set of skills that are probably somewhat uncommon. I'm not saying they don't exist, but my ability to look at a project or a problem differently than others, I think is very valuable. The fact that I don't have a preconceived set of notions that have already helped me make my decision about any diverse array of issues isn't there. I know that I'm going to have a lot of questions I don't have the answer for, but I rely very much on people like you and all the people in District 2 to come to them and say, hey, this is what the issue is. What do you think? What are your concerns? How would you suggest that we go about this? Because my job is not to tell you this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
My job is to listen to you and say, this is what we need to do, coming from you. And then I start talking, understanding, and implementing what they're talking about, and defending the rights of the individuals and supporting North Dakota. I want to keep North Dakota as it is. I want to, I guess maybe I'm an older timer that way, but there's so many good things about North Dakota, so many wonderful things, and I want to preserve that. I just want to make sure our culture and our values and all the things that has made North Dakota such a wonderful place to live are preserved, and that it's something we can leave for our children and our community and say we did the right thing for the people of North Dakota here.
Well, I certainly am one that is looking forward to working with you. I know I've been involved for close to 4 years now, and so when I first got involved in the district, it was back in 22, and learning the convention, how that all goes, and endorsing candidates and stuff like that, and it just didn't feel like the candidates or the people that we had working for us really wanted to work for us. So it's going to be nice to have someone that wants to work with us and for us. So I really do appreciate your time again, and we will do this again. I'm going to be here broadcasting the meet and greet. I'm sure I'm looking forward to what you guys have to say this evening.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you taking the time.
You bet.
Thank you, Shilo.
That's Mark Enget, and he's running for District 2 Senate up here in District 2. And again, we're up at the 109 Steakhouse in Lignite, North Dakota. The meet and greet starts here in about 10 minutes from 5 to 7. So come on out and ask these guys questions. So with that, thank you, and we'll see you the next time on Here's the Deal.